GM Fox fam, we're gonna hang out for just 30 seconds to see if any late stragglers join, and then we'll get started. Enjoy the beats. All right, GM Fox fam, thanks for joining us for the operations office hours today. We skipped our last operations office hours 2 weeks ago just due to having some COVID issues take myself and a couple of our other workstream contributors out. So for the most part, we're all pretty recovered. Lich is still kind of on our way, getting back to full health, but that stuff's no joke. And if it affects you or a loved one or a contributor that you know, send them an orange juice and a get well Giphy or something like that to them, because it hurts and it sucks and it takes some time. So, but we're back and we're at these operations office hours. A lot of things been going on in operations at the DAO recently, namely the end of the first term and the transition over to the second term. I've been keeping myself busy tracking all of that information and trying to prepare it for you guys, and have presented some of this stuff already in the forum, but I figure since I've got your ear and attention while you're at operations office hour with us, I'd go over some of this information a little more in detail. And if you guys have questions at all, feel free to post them inside the ShapeShiftDAO stage chat or raise your hand and we'll bring it up. Our team right now is also working on testing a release right now, so this might be a little Tyler's soapboxy today while they are multitasking in the background, but I'm sure we'll hear from some of them as we talk about all of these things. But yeah, please feel free to engage with us. We're here to have this be an open dialogue, and I'll talk as long as I need to if no one else does, but I love having dialogue as well. So without further ado, I'm going to pull up the first term review. If you want to follow along with what's going on here, it's not required. I'm just kind of using it as a reference point and reading along, but you can check out the Zoom link in the stage chat as well. Nothing super duper relevant outside of what we're talking about, but just the hyperlinks and things like that. If you want to see where everything's referenced and things like that, feel free to just click on the actual forum post and read along yourself. So our first term ended at the end of January, and we have a proposal for 6 months going in for the second term. And I did my best to collate all of the work that we've been doing across kind of all of the different work streams and projects and priorities into the best form of scalable KPIs that I feel accurately represent the work that we're trying to provide to the DAO. And those kind of all coalesce with the different focuses that operations has made as the pillars of what we provide and support here in the DAO. And those come down to our prod issues best practices, triage management, deployment and regression testing, and DAO admin procedures and practices. Sometimes I refer to that as DAO admin, but it's way better to read than it is to speak. So sometimes I'll just spell it all out there. But looking into the first top one of production issues and best practices, we try and provide a 99% uptime of the product suite and services. That means that if we can go, that's measured for an entire quarter. That means if we try and go up all the time for kind of rain or snow. And we've only had one issue so far in our DAO's existence of us having any downtime, and that was scheduled. So I'm knocking on wood, and I'd ask you to as well, that we haven't had anything unexpected come out from underneath us and make us go into downtime. But thankfully, we've got a really great group of devs and a really awesome open source code that is much simpler and less complex than our previous code bases. So we definitely nailed that 99% at 99.969. And I think that we will continue to see that is a KPI that we can knock out of the park in the next quarter. If you want to see more and remember the scheduled maintenance window, there's links to that on that forum post. We had 10 production issue escalations per quarter is the KPI that I set as well for prod issues that we are related to. And I'll clarify that is production issue escalations that have some relation to do with ops. If we missed something in testing, if there was a triage bug that wasn't properly discovered or diagnosed that got escalated to a prod issue. These are all things that I feel we can count as kind of a limit of what we're comfortable with before we're in the red here. And I drew the line at 10 per quarter. And that was measured off of the fact that we had 8 in Q4 and we had 2 in Q1 so far. So that actually would, if we were measuring the 4 months as our quarter term, we would have missed this KPI. But thankfully, just due to the window of Q1 and Q4, we had just under that. But that also means that we've got to make it the next rest of this quarter without getting another 8 prod issue escalations. I'm really impressed with how our dev team works and has responded in our release processes so far. There's great communication and really, really expedited fixes for everything that we've found in our release processes so far. So this kind of feels like a new leaf of ShapeShift and our relation to prod issues. And so I hope that we continue on that process. We'll definitely prepare for the worst. And these KPIs are set to try and challenge us and maintain a high standard of excellence here in terms of providing our product to our users. With that, we also measure how much hours are dedicated to core contributors that would have been able to spend those hours outside, doing something more productive to the DAO instead of fighting the fire that they were on. And we add all of those man hours up depending on which core contributors had to get pulled and how much time they had to spend on it. And we've got a very, very, very tight window there of 50 total combined hours from DAO contributors being pulled away from prod issues. This is something that used to be pretty rambunctious at centralized ShapeShift and was the reason that we actually birthed the triage process some year and a half ago. So it's really nice to see how tight we are now with how many hours people are expending here. It's also kind of an interesting metric because was previously measured off of hours spent outside of work hours. I'm using air quotes. And that's a different metric in a DAO where work hours start to become subjective or relative to someone's location if we're working with people all over the world. So now we've narrowed this instead of outside of work hours to core contributors delaying time from what their focus would be on that could be helping scale something else or build something else. And 50 hours can get out of hand very quickly if we have a requirement for an issue that is 4 or 5 hours to resolve and requires 3 or 4 core contributors to all be focused on it for that length of time. So I'm really surprised that we only had the hours that we did. If you'd like to see each individual issue and details about the metrics there and links to all of the issues to go back read our firefighting escapades, feel free to click on those links. They're all collated inside our Notion. Yeah, thanks GK for posting that our data is in the Zoom. If you're looking to follow along with what's going on here, I'll repeat again. You can click that Zoom link to follow along with what I'm sharing, but also you can go to the Fox forum post. That might be even more beneficial because you can actually click on all those hyperlinks and deep dive in all the data. Any questions for operations around prod issues and prod issue management and our KPIs there? I'll also pause for a second and see if anyone who's on stage has anything they'd like to share about how we handled our KPIs with prod issues or their experience on this first term with that aspect of operations. I'll take it maybe you guys are deep testing too. Just to go ops, okay. Yeah. Thanks, boys. Keep up the good work with your testing.
Yeah, I missed that one. Sorry, Tyler, I missed it. What was the question? I'm sorry.
No, I was asking if you guys had anything you'd like to add or share about your experience with prod issues or the KPIs that we met around our prod issue resolutions over the first term.
No, I think you summarized it pretty well. You came up with some very measurable KPIs. So I think that, it'll be great to see us, reaching for those goals and looking to, keep those and meet those as best possible. So I think it's a worthy challenge for us to do, and I think it's achievable. So let's just put our minds to it and make it happen.
Learning what's a bug and what's a feature has been a fun roller coaster.
I would like to think that it becomes easier, but I feel like that subjectivity always is going to float around here. But that's the nature of crypto and tech and DAOs too, right? Moving right along into the next section of our KPIs is triage management. This is my baby in the pillars of the operations work streams, focuses, and goals. I spent so much of my time before I was an operations work stream leader, shaping the current ShapeShift triage process and honing it to make sure that it met the needs of many different contributors. So to see it at the state that it's in now and to see that it's scalable with our team has been super awe-inspiring to me. And we've got some pretty nice metrics so far that I think as we develop this process and really plug it in on the back end of the funnel to GitHub bounty tickets and things like that, we'll even have some greater KPIs that we can measure based on solved bounty tickets, and even cost of triage tickets in general. I think are things that we'll be able to slowly build metrics around in the future. But to go over the ones that we have so far for this first term review, we've got a greater than 80% resolution rate, and we hit almost 90% this quarter, or this term, 4 months, with 123 reported issues, and 13 of them still in some form of discovery, unresolvedness, or recreation needs, with our team to further move them along to a resolution state. So that's pretty good. I'd love to get that percentage number up into the 90s, the 95s, the 99s, kind of like our uptime percentage KPI is. But there's definitely a lot of external factors that go into what makes a ticket, and what might prioritize or validate a resolution to a ticket. And we're also in a very precarious position of features and bugs in beta.shapeshift.com not necessarily holding the same sort of weight and priority as features and bugs in app.shapeshift.com, as we meet parity between the two and we rush to bounty out all of these things and move into the future with app.shapeshift.com. So there are definitely intentionally left hanging triage tickets or ones that are found with resolved right now that might end up coming back because there's just a troubleshooting method and not the time spent to completely resolve them. But I have high hopes that our future with GitHub bounties will allow us to resolve many more of these tickets, lean into this process even further, and increase that percentage resolution rate. Two other KPIs that I had were related more so to the release process, which is happening right now. We do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and our team has been looking at the new changes that have been cut from engineering, and we're doing all of our tests, and we're going to try and get it out before the end of the day. And some KPIs that we've measured off of these are that I'd like to see less than 2 cadences missed per quarter due to bugs being overlooked in ops testing. We did have some bug fighting and resolution make it to where our testing on Tuesday lasted beyond 5 p.m. MST. That might happen on these cadences, but if we end up having to roll into missing this Thursday, that would have been not ideal, and operations would have been holding up engineering from progress. So our hope is that we do not do that. And of course, operations isn't responsible for every single bug that we find, and we have very little control over the timelines on resolutions for these. So there is like a little bit of wiggle room and understanding per quarter, or per quarter, that we'd like to see less than 2. And we did have 1 cadence that was missed last term, and I will take ownership over that. I was the operations lead on that, and it was the very first time we went through the process. And while we were learning, I didn't have the procedures set up in place that I would have liked, and we learned a lot, but we did skip out on the Thursday release that first week, unfortunately. Thankfully, 1 is less than 2, so we still hit that KPI. And I think that our procedures are much tighter right now, and I hope that maybe this KPI can change to less than 1 instead of less than 2. We'll see what the update looks like in term 2. We also had less than 2 rollbacks during releases per quarter due to bugs overlooked by ops and testing. And additionally, well, not additionally, but this is the only KPI that we missed. I tried to make all of our KPIs challenging. I tried to make them all realistic. And I tried to not give too much allowances to just say, hey, we did everything right. And this is the one thing that I'm not too pleased with at what happened with operations, and that we did in the course of our release testing say yes, everything was good, when in fact everything was not good. And that required us to roll back from our production release to a previous build. And the complications that can be involved in that, especially in centralized ShapeShift, created lots of headaches and heartaches and caused lots of extra hours and time lost. And so my hope is to not create any more of those. But unfortunately, as the operations lead in the very first two releases that we did, there were some oversights and gaps in testing and assumptions that were false that were made about the state and statuses of certain features. And we had our very first two releases that I was manning both of rollbacks that were required in prod. And for a number that was less than two, having two is not great. So we failed that. And I'm sorry, team, that I let us down there. We have, in response, shaped our processes much more. We have become much more detailed about how we do our tests. We have a really nice template that's got everything that we're checking every single time. And we've left a lot of the subjectivity to the side of what we're testing to make it a little more easy to make sure that we complete all of the expectations there. So that is my little analysis on triage and what's going on there. Any comments, hands raised? I haven't hopped over here to see if anyone's raised their hand at all. It doesn't look like it. Happy to accept comments, criticism, suggestions about the triage process and how we might be able to shape it more, or if you guys have thoughts on if I should change our KPIs, move them up or down, focus them differently as well. This is definitely, there's no rule book for how we do this in the DAO, so I'm definitely open to making sure that we're as agile as possible, and sometimes that comes from getting feedback and taking ideas from everyone. So lay it on me, guys, if you got them. I'll keep going without them though. Moving on to the last one is the DAO admin procedures and practices. There aren't any KPIs from this yet. There was a lot of hope that we would be able to measure certain attendance and things like that based on POAPs, and our POAP process had to get restarted and false started and revamped 4 or 5 times throughout the first term. So it ended up not being a very good barometer for metrics. But we do have a lot of meetings that we organize and a lot of documents that can show kind of our success of how we were able to collaborate and get things together. So there's links for op sprints and our governance call, some go-no-goats, some retros, and the structure for the POAP minting schedule that we previously ran for a month or so. If we move on down to the budget, I'll try and speed things up as I go too, because I know I'm still on agenda item number 1. The long and the short of it is our total budget was $147,300, and we totally spent at the end of the day $126,207. And of all of our different sections that we spent money on, the only one that was over budget was test funds. Everything else was under budget. The test funds budget was over budget due to many unscoped issues and unforeseen problems due to network fees, due to low liquidity of assets. The way test funds are funded right now in the DAO is that they are sent. Previously, they were sent Fox on XDAI through Colony. Now they are sent USDC on XDAI through Colony. And in order to get them to be usable, they have to be mainnet ETH. And so using HoneySwap, using OmniBridge, using Uniswap, I have tried my best to manage the availability of ETH test funds for both operations and the other teams that might be requesting it. So far, that has been product and engineering, and have been able to provide those funds even before they've been able to refund the budgets that were allotted for them. So in doing all of that, I ended up having to eat a couple of really bad slippage fees, eat a couple of really bad bridge fees, and the average bridge to go from XDAI USDC to ETH right now that is currently using OmniBridge and Uniswap can average anywhere up to $350 to make the funds that I'm unlocking usable. So all of those things were not scoped on the intention of our initial budget, and we have thusly updated the budget to 15K a month, which is really close, is a little bit over the total amount that was requested and spent in January, which was a little over 12K. So giving ourselves a little bit more of a ceiling to work with, and the really awesome neat fact that any and all of this budget that isn't spent will go back to the treasury. And because a lot of the treasury funds that were sent to operations were in Fox early on, and we didn't spend all of our budgets in the other places, and the volatility of both ETH and Fox moved as much as it did, we're actually going to be returning kind of 10K worth of value and assets out of nowhere that just developed over the course of price volatility and us getting paid Fox early in our budget and it going up quite exponentially before we had to start making payments with it. So cool thing about being in crypto is sometimes money and value just shows up. There's kind of line items for all of the other smaller bits in technology and training and discretionary funds, but there are definitely smaller slices of the pie than the salary or the test fund budget. And we will be returning the rest of those funds to Root pretty soon. Hopefully, if I find some time after the governance call today, I will do that today. So that is our first term review. Any questions, comments? I know we've got some people up on the stage too. If you guys on the team have anything you'd like to add about the review, happy to have your voices.
What a journey it's been. Lots of learning and tribulations along the way.
Hopefully it was a good journey and not a sad, challenging journey.
I think all the challenges have been very rewarding and worthwhile.
Yeah, we're down it and learning along the way. All right. So I can fit the rest of this agenda in this. Well, I'll try and move a little bit faster. We have a proposal for the second term in ideation. It will probably be moved over to boardroom in another day or two. So far, it's gotten nothing but 100% yes feedback in the poll, as well as some nice comments about showing additional support. I would love if you're on this call now and you haven't taken a look at the proposal for the second term. If you could leave some feedback, if you could give a yes or a no to that poll, that'll definitely help us identify sentiment as we move over to boardroom. And then once we are in boardroom, if we continue to get positive feedback, I would love to see your support and your votes for our proposal. The biggest differences from the first term to the second term is length of time. It's now 6 months instead of 4 months. Test fund budget. That test fund budget previously scaled $1,000 up a month, and it went from 4,000 to 5,000 to 6,000 to 7,000, and we ended up more than doubling that need in the last month at 13,000. So as the team is scaled, so is the test funds, and the test fund budget now for 3 months is 15K, And then with the additional hire of ops assistants, it goes up to 20K for the last 3 months. And the other change is that there's more space for more hiring in ops assistants. We are currently in the process of hiring, and we have slated room for 2 more from the previous term's budget. And I've taken that scale and moved it up, so there's 2 more that can be added in February, and then 2 more that can be added 3 months down the road. But those positions are similar to the ones that we're currently hiring on, and I hope that as our work stream and workload matures, that maybe the next proposal after that, we might have some more tiered responsibilities and roles that shape our needs. So that is the proposal. Any questions on the proposal, on the budget, on how we could better help serve and provide the DAO? I'm going to take your silence as affirmation and consent that we're doing the right thing and the good thing.
Just testing, man. Sorry, Tyler, you hit us in the middle of testing. You know how we like to jump on it pretty tough. So a lot of my attention's been on there, but I do hear what you're saying. I agree. Very happy that you were willing as operation lead and as the workstream leader to step up and take responsibility with providing this report and giving this information to the DAO for everyone to be able to discern their own information from. I think it's very proactive as a leader, and I appreciate that. And we're just going to continue to keep going forward because we can only go up. So that's what we're here to do.
Absolutely. Thanks, Neverwas. In the fact that we just ended that one talking about the roles for new hires, I do have the next thing on the agenda is talking about the new hire process. It's actually been pretty great this time around. It was really difficult in drumming up a lot of attention previously, a couple months ago, when the DAO was less mature and less rounded out. But I would like to at least comment from the operations perspective that I see things growing, and we've got more interest, and didn't need to use John's Twitter to start getting people interested in the DAO. There's a lot of people that are organically finding our Discord, finding our forum, being connected to the right people and reaching out. And so we've got 6 to 8 applicants right now that are all interested in the 2 ops assistants roles that we have. And we've gotten a really good process where anyone who's interested in the role is getting the permissions to all of our channels and is kind of staging with us this week, where they're hopping on and doing some of the testing like we're doing with the release process or some of our triage recreations. And we've got the budget now in the second term allotted for bounties. So all of these tasks will not be thankless. We'll be able to even bounty out for thanks for these ops assistants helping us, but also showing us how they collaborate with us and things like that. So I'm hoping that we're going to get 2 really great candidates out of this process that will jump into the team, and that we've also got kind of the bare bones structure for a new process in which we're going to be able to engage with these contributors. We're only going to be able to take 2, so there will be 6 or so people that have shown passion and interest in being contributors here. And I'd hate to slam the door in their face, because there's definitely other work streams out there that might find usefulness or skills that these people are offering. I can see it already. Irina was one of the people that when we didn't have a position for her in operations, she didn't take that as a no. And she went right over with marketing and is now turning out those really awesome weekly newsletters and doing content creation. So I'm trying to use this process to continue to open those doors and opportunities for the people that are here, if they can be plugged into the DAO further. And I think the best way that we are going to, as operations, provide that new flow for contributors is through bounties here, so that I hope that additionally, outside of the ops assistants that we hire, we will have contributors that might just be hanging out in foxes and have some fox and feel comfortable with hopping on a triage for a day and making some fox, or making we haven't really decided how the bounty funds are going to be paid out, whether it's on XDAI through Colony or mainnet through test funds. But honestly, that can almost be a preference for a contributor. I'd rather not hold them back. So yeah, that's the future of where I would like to see us engaging with contributors there. And I think that we're really starting to develop a whole bunch of great talent of people that are becoming crypto literate and that are looking to be DAO contributors. And maybe the next term we will have some part-time roles that have developed out of this. Maybe we will have a really great bounty track that kind of has like a menu of tasks and time and bounty paid that we can provide. And then beyond that, if this is something that can be scalable to other work streams, or people can tweak and fork and change what we're doing here to their own success with bounties, I'd love for us to help you guys collaborate and figure out how we can keep, or rather retain, all of these contributors, even though we have a limited set of full-time roles. So interesting idea, cool, great start for us here. And I hope that we'll have some of these contributors become mainstays, like we've seen a lot of the people either on stage in the audience go from just piqued interest to full-blown degen. So yeah. Any comments from anyone on stage about this new hire process so far? Or you want me to keep steam rolling?
You're doing great, Tyler.
Thanks.
One thing I would add, Tyler, is it's been very collaborative, and that that is probably new to the DAO itself. I'm not sure how you did it back at ShapeShift, but I know that, Tyler, you've made it a point to include the whole team or squad within the process, having the accessibility to speak to the potential candidates and applicants, and really getting to familiarize ourselves with them. And I think that is, if it is something new to the DAO, it's definitely important to build that communication, for, like you said, not only just for our work stream, but for the potential for the contributors adding to other work streams, because we're all our community members, and we're leading this charge of DAO life and bringing it to the world. So I think it's very important that we're all included. So thank you once again for that.
Yeah, we're all a little bit Taoist, right? That was a joke. Man, jokes don't fly in Discord because I can't hear all
I thought
of
it
you
was
guys
funny.
I am kind of Taoist, though, outside of DAOs, but that's for another conversation. Moving on back to my agenda, guys. Got three last things here. We have a POAP class, the long-awaited POAP masterclass happening tomorrow, where myself and GK, mostly GK, I'm not gonna say that I've done a whole bunch here, have developed a farmer-proof, POAP-approved bot that we've integrated inside Discord that allows us to make our own POAPs in an expedient fashion. Now we don't have to have a long wait with manual approvals, and it's a resource that doesn't have the same sort of farming risks that our previous POAP trials did. So this is just kind of the quick overview of what we're going to be doing. If you'd like to attend tomorrow, it's a private channel that we can give select contributors access to, and it's a bot that you interface with, that you need to have all of your information about your POAP beforehand. So that means you need to have the APNG and the artwork created beforehand. But once you have all of that, it's a really quick, simple like the Fox form, maybe 8-step questionnaire where you type in the details of your POAP. And we have one approved email that the POAPs, this email is connected to the bot and been approved by the POAP team for us to have them be sent to. And then from there, it's just a simple bot command on the call. Everything is tied to our voice channels. So you'll have to hit a start and a stop with a bot. And as long as there's users that are inside the call for 10 minutes without deafening themselves, you're allowed to mute, you can't deafen, then that is proof enough that you have been in attendance for the call deserving of a POAP, and you will get a bot that you can talk back to who will give you the link for the POAP. You just have to say GM to him. Or it looks like maybe it's just GK saying there's no more GM. So it's just a slash command, and there's also a claim your POAP room that you get it afterwards. So the process is developed well enough for us to open it out into the open, the rest of the DAO. It does not have all of the pieces of the art generation. Like you can't just put in a quarter and get out a POAP art yet. So you still will have to have a good friend or some skills to make these POAPs. The content creation team has a whole bunch of guidelines about what's to be expected for POAP design artwork, the like negative space, the style, the motion, the color palette, the graphics. All of those things are readily available either from the content creation team or from the creative services team. I'm not about to volunteer any of Gray Machine or Irina or Shox's time. But I do know that they are all extremely talented POAP creators. And my hope is that now that we have this process for creating them, we will have a new bottleneck of POAP artwork needed. And that can be a very simple process for us to develop a marketplace of people who need POAPs made and a marketplace of people who make POAPs. And yeah, seeing Gray Machine's comment about after ETH Denver, if you're wanting to ramp this up to 100 and get POAPs made right away, I would imagine coordinating with our content creators and giving a big buffer for ETH Denver is going to be the best expectations. Thank you for providing all those resources as well, Gray Machine. Yeah, there's some great tools out there for how you can do this and make this artwork yourself. With free tools, you don't need to have a Photoshop license or anything like that. And maybe one of these days after the POAP Masterclass, we can even do like a Bob Ross your own POAP from one of our lovely, talented creators. But that's outside of my purview of the Masterclass. I'm just going to be giving the keys. So if you are someone who is maybe a workstream leader and is interested in having POAPs be added to future calls of yours, if you're someone who foresees that you have engagements with AMAs that would be deserving of POAPs, or if you're someone who would like to offer up your skills to be part of the ShapeShiftDAO POAP process, this class will definitely be for you. And we'll coordinate and organize that on Friday, and we'll give some people some permissions so they can start testing out with this bot and making POAPs. And we will come back and rise from the ashes of our lack of POAPs, and we will take the seat again, and we will all wear the crown of being equally POAP king here. No individual kings. Well, that's true. Approved persons only, GK. So we're not going to just bum rush and let every single person have access to the POAPs. You will need to have some connection to a work stream or a reason for a work stream leader to have the faith that you will be making these POAPs in good service. But we can always connect those things if you're just a contributor out there looking to get involved and you're like, this POAP thing speaks to me, reach out to me, reach out to GK, reach out to Irina, or Gray Machine, and we will get your talents honed into the DAO and properly compensated for. All right, that's enough on POAPs. You guys don't know how relieved I'm going to be to have this class behind me. I've been holding on to broken POAPs for months now. I wake up in the middle of the night thinking about them sometimes. So this will be nice. Moving on to release process review. This is one that I don't have a whole bunch of prepared things to talk about beyond what I've shared inside our first term review about the release process and what's been going on so far. But I do have three bright individuals right now, which is maybe in the audience, maybe still sick, who've gone through this process and have definitely learned a lot from it. I think one of the things that I'd like to just highlight for 2 seconds before I ask if they've got anything to share is we developed a very thorough testing process at centralized ShapeShift that we had a lot of complexities and dependencies on our old code base that made us be a little more precautious about how we tested everything. And one of the cool new things that was highlighted to me that I was unaware of, because I'm not specifically a well-versed coder by any means, is that the Git flow that we're using makes it to where the code that is in prod and the code that we are merging should be, emphasis on should, be the exact same. And there were a lot of dependencies that could not be the case in old centralized ShapeShift. So we would always have these random whack-a-mole edge cases show up, and you were going to fix one thing in the west wing, and all of a sudden the plumbing in the east wing broke. And so I've been assured by many people smarter than me that this is no longer the case, that as we move away from the Axiom code base that is so fragile, and we are in this new open source, that things should be able to be assumed to be working in prod as they were in develop. So this could have monumental consequences to our test fund budget, and is something that hasn't fully shaped our current procedures. We're still doing lots of testing on the other end of things when they come out, but I'm hoping might allow me to relax our posture a little bit on what's required in testing and save some time and save some money, and save some gas fees. So one thing I'd like to add there for the release process is that it's definitely something that is still being revamped quite heavily as we're doing each release on Tuesdays and Thursdays. But I'll also step down for a second in case Ron, who's our current release lead, has anything to share, or Shifty or never was from the process. Everyone on the stage here has spent 1 week being a release lead from our operations.
It's a lot of fun. I recommend everyone do this more often.
Yeah, to the point that I know, you were making, Tyler, as well as DeFi and a few others, Theobald and stuff. So the one nice thing about our current get flow is that, you have the hash from GitHub, which can be verified as being the same hash when it's pushed to prod versus develop. So we can follow along and ensure that the code base is the same and that, it's not being manipulated or changed. And therefore, if we do the proper testing in develop before it gets to prod, it should technically be the same written code. Now, like you were saying, there are always differences that may come in through individuals' machines and devices, or something of that nature that we would always want to be mindful of and aware to go forward, looking at. And as the code base changes and we add possibly different modules or features, this becomes a little bit more complex as far as all the testing that might be required and ensuring going forward. But yeah, there's a good chance that we can find some room for not spending so much in test funds for both pre-testing and post-testing. But as you said, it's evolving, and we'll definitely keep monitoring this and looking for ways for the community to save money as a as a work stream, but at the same time ensuring that we're doing the job that we're tasked to do. So that's a big part. And one other big piece of that, Tyler, that I know that you have been thinking about, and all of us, as well as I'm sure engineering is like testnet, having some automated tests being able to be run. At some points for builds as well as pre and post, allowing us to maybe have a little bit more efficiency and some of the things that are done, and then us overseeing more so than having to manually do each browser test and each browser environment and so forth. So yeah, there's a lot of changes that and room for growth in the process. And I just wanted to reiterate, like you were saying to the community, that we are definitely looking to find ways of making this more effective and efficient, and we're looking to ensure that we are um, being mindful of the community's the treasury, and how we utilize our funds and make it have the most bang for its buck for everyone. So thanks.
Totally. Yeah, I don't think that testnet or Cypress tests, the thing that I think maybe Apotheosis is the one working on right now to help us remove some of our manual testing, is going to be like a quick snap of the fingers, and we'll have everything changed and cheaper and easier right away. But I do think they provide foundations for us to build new procedures and for us to offload some of the work that we're doing. Yes. So I hope that that's something we'll be able to kind of scope into future KPIs in the second term, is how much were we able to transpose of our responsibilities onto automated Cypress testing? How much of our required testing are we able to recreate in testnet and save money on? Lots of interesting sort of engagements we can have now that we have a clear set of expectations in terms of what's required of us to be successful with engineering and our release process, and what our tool set available is. So yeah, super excited for that. And yeah, I'll always say testnet schmeshnet. That has been ingrained to me from my early days at ShapeShift, and even if we get to a point where we can make 100% assumptions, I will always, that things are working the same in develop as in prod. It's always worth it in the blockchain space to just verify, instead of assuming trust. So we will always have some budget for test funds, and I will always have skepticism about the fact that everything works perfectly all the time. So yeah, and the last thing I have on the list is kind of a warning shot or a foreshadowing that we're about to have a lot of goats in the house. We have Goat No Goats coming up for staking V3. The first one's going to be on Monday of next week. We have the Osmo Cosmo Go No Goes, that Goat No Goat, that I will be organizing with Danielle and the Osmos contributors and product and engineering. And we have the Foxy work that's going to require some Go No Goats as well. I would imagine that there is a Rick and Morty universe where all three of these goats are no goats, but exist as goats simultaneously. I also think there's a Rick and Morty universe where there's potentially a fourth or fifth goat, all inside our little DAO goat farm. And in order for us to be successful with that, that probably means that we're going to have numerous contributors being responsible for the representatives of the different work streams. as these are in flight together, so we can land all of these launches successfully. And I hope that as these start to take more shape, if you are someone who is a contributor who feels that they're a stakeholder involved in one of these goat no goats, and that you can help us herd or wrangle these goats successfully, that you reach out to us, that you connect with operations, with myself, with whoever you have on your work stream who might be thinking about these projects or in charge of these projects as well, to make sure that we can coordinate successfully and launch on time. So I have hopes for the future of the DAO where we can spin out and scale to be working on many different projects successfully at the same time. And I think if we want to do that, we still have to be organized and coordinated and use the resources that we have proven to help us get there. So I think these goat no goat formats are really, really great. And I hope that we can increase our velocity by being able to multitask with numerous projects at the same time. Hopefully it won't become too overwhelming and it will start to delay the progress between all of these goats. And if we get to the point that 2 operations office hours from now, we've got 5 goats, 6 goats in the barn, none of them have actually moved on into being Euro meat, then maybe we do need to address how we're able to handle this and if we're focusing too much. But I see and I forecast that we are growing and scaling in projects to try and be solved at the same time. A lot of that due to increase in bounty work that we were able to do. And I hope that everyone who is contributing and following along is hanging on to the seat of their pants or their butts or whatever they need to, because it's about to get complicated. So we can use our communication skills and our coordination to make sure that we're on the same page between all of these different projects and launching them successfully. It's just going to take some actual focus, and willingness to work together and communication about expectations and timelines. So yeah, that was a big old rambly mess of I'm excited for our future and I'm concerned about the pipeline for our velocity to get there. But I think that with proper communication, we will handle that between our stakeholders going forward. So yeah, prepare yourselves, order some euros, get your goat knife shirt laundered if you need it, and get ready for some awesome goat no goats we've got coming up down the pipeline. Got about 5 minutes left, and I've finished my agenda. I don't know if there's anyone else who might have any questions about what we're doing in ops here, or anything we covered, or anything they'd like to bring up, but I will definitely leave this part of the call open to bring people on stage. They want to raise their hand or address any comments in the stage chat if they've got them. All right. I don't see many people typing. I see lots of goats in the chat.
Sounds like it's a goat to me.
I'll take it as a goat too.
Oh, but I'm still, you guys keep trying on Discord to crack the jokes. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I can get it, but
I used to use the crying Jordan meme inside our goat sort of Slack emoji inside joke dropping, because Michael Jordan is the GOAT. But it really didn't land and people didn't understand it. So that was very short-lived. Kobe's not the GOAT, man. Oh, okay. Yeah, now we're derailed. I'm going to end it now. Thank you all for joining us for all of my soapboxing about the review of our first term and catching everyone up to what operations has been up to. I appreciate the fact that you're still listening with us.